Good morning. Welcome back to KXAN Plus. I'm your anchor, Esmeralda Zamora, and today we have our first morning weather Q&A segment with meteorologist Rich Segal. Rich, good morning. How are you doing today?
Oh, good morning. It was good to be back after having a week and a day off. And last weekend I was in Memphis. I was attending a national softball tournament where I did live stream play-by-play. That's what I wanted to do when I was 10 years old. I wanted to do something in sports announcing. But it was fun to be away and see my softball friends. And now it's good to be back with you and Jayla and the rest of our Sunday morning crew.
Yeah, and you came back to some pretty awesome weather here in Austin.
Yes. Now, we were disappointed on Friday when we did not get the amount of rain that we thought we would get, as that cold front just came through so fast that it really diminished the precipitation potential. We do have more rain in the forecast coming up, and we'll get into that too a little bit here this morning.
Well, let's jump into our Q&A. We have a few questions, and I have them here ready for us. The first one is, we could see the lightning and hear the thunder last week, but we had no rain where we live. Why is that?
So there are a few things that play into this, and I have a graphic here that will display that for you. One is the urban heat island effect. Cities are warmer than the rural areas most of the time, and sometimes this heat effect brought about by the warmer cities results in changes in the temperature of various levels of the atmosphere and also the pressure. So that could be one. That influences the storm's path. Another one is that buildings have an effect. And they don't have to be skyscrapers. They could be buildings that are a little taller. And sometimes what they do is they disrupt storm patterns by directing the rain to go in a different direction. And that is the fifth one. It depends on the storm movement here. Sometimes we'll watch as the storm progresses out of the hill country coming in from the southwest to the northeast. And then all of a sudden it just changes direction. And instead of going in a northeasterly direction, it'll change direction and start moving in an easterly direction. And before you know it, the people that were thinking, oh, I'm just southwest of that storm and I'll go get some decent rain out of this. Well, the rain just bypasses them as it moves in that easterly direction. And, we're likely to see this with the upcoming rain and storms that we have tomorrow. Some people say that it is an old wives' tale that, well, it rained on the west side of where I live and it rained on the east side from where I live, but it didn't rain right where I live. So there must be a hole over the atmosphere. I believe it was Eric Henriksen, our science reporter, who did an interview about a year or so ago with a professor over at University of Texas named Dev Niyogi. And he did say that just what we were saying, that the urban heat island effect is very prevalent, and sometimes we'll take that storm and it will bypass the city and then go right back over the country like it has done in the past. And so sometimes this is a true effect, and sometimes some people think it's just an old wives' tale.
And during these showers that we were expecting here in Austin, what areas were missed?
Some parts of the hill country, there were isolated storm totals of one gauge at Burnett had over 4.5 inches. Just to the west of Burnett in a community of Tao in Llano County, about 10 miles northeast, I believe they had over 5 inches, a little bit of a mini rain bomb, you might say. And there was a gauge in Fayette County at Buckner's Creek near Muldoon, on just to the southwest of LaGrange, that also had more than 5 inches. LaGrange had 3. But then you get into Bastrop and Lockhart, and those cities didn't even make 1/10 of an inch. And it was worse here. At Camp Mabry's reporting station, at the airport's reporting station, only 0.03 of an inch of rain was measured between Wednesday and what little rain we actually had overnight. So it was a very disappointing scenario for most of the area. There were several that did get into those 3 digits. Again, 1 inch to 2 to 3 to 4 to those 2 5-inch rain totals. But we were expecting more widespread showers and storms. It's just that cold front came quickly through the area. And this is the other thing. This is when I like to tell people. An economics professor once told me there are fixed costs and there are variable costs. And weather is a variable, not a fixed. We had anticipated 1 inch to 2 inches. We honestly thought that that's what we were going to receive. in the 3-day event that we had with rain that was specifically for Thursday, Friday, and into early Saturday. But again, only a few isolated areas picked up more than those 2 inches of rain, and most locations didn't even get an inch. And so you don't know how to couch that. Well, were you successful in your forecast? Were you not successful in your forecast? And it just depends on where you live. That would determine success and non-success.
Yeah, and it wasn't just here in Central Texas. I went home to the valley to visit family, and apparently we were supposed to have some really strong storms all day Saturday.
Yeah.
None of that happened.
When I was home Friday afternoon and I was watching what we were doing over here because my shift had ended, Kristen and Tommy and Nick were covering this, and I kept looking and seeing that they had a severe thunderstorm watch, and then it got canceled before its expiration time, and there weren't as many warnings. We thought again, because there were so many warnings on Thursday, that we would have as many, if not more, on Friday, because we had the lifting mechanism. That being the cold front that was sliding south through the area. But again, it just came through quickly. Sometimes these things slow down, sometimes they speed up. And that's the one thing when making a forecast that can just drive you crazy. You are looking at this movement from point A to point B, and then point B to point C. You figure that the movement would be about the same, and then it doesn't. And, you can't go back on the air because, you can't just go back on the air and amend a forecast when there's regular programming going on. The only time you can really break in is when there's breaking weather.
Yeah, and that wasn't the case at all.
Not on Friday.
Not on Friday.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to our second question, we have, why does your radar seem off?
This has to do with the settings on your KXAN weather app, and that's the app that we are talking about here. If you have it set to past, then you are getting where the rain was and where it is now.
Oh.
If you have it set to future, then you're getting a computer's interpretation of where the next rains may be. So we always tell viewers, as you see on the bottom of that blue box in the white lettering, radar on past. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of the weather app. You can set it to past. You can set it to past and future. You could set it to future. We encourage you to set it to past. Also, make sure that your location is set. In the top part of the app, where you see on this particular one, it says Leander. You can't make it out. It's just below where it says radar and location. You see Leander. Well, if you click on the little Q next to Leander, you will have a drop-down menu that will allow you to set it to the city that you live in. If you live in Leander, that's where you want it set. Austin, Marble Falls. But you can also set it to follow me. And if you do that, then it will follow you to wherever you are to tell you what the latest radar is showing and make sure that the notifications are turned on. But again, the key to this is have it set on past.
Yeah, this app is so customizable, and you can tailor it to exactly what you want it to be. So I encourage everyone to download the app and go into the settings, change all of that information to be what you prefer when we have severe weather, especially.
Yes. Like we have potential for tomorrow and Tuesday. By the way, if you ever do have a question about the app, please send it to us. And we will, if it's something that the weather department can answer specifically, we will answer you immediately. But sometimes we need to direct those questions to our IT people and our IT person, and let him come up with the answer, because there are things, the inner workings that he knows that some of us don't.
Yes.
And I'll be true in telling you that I am one of those who don't. I'm not an IT type person, but Robert is.
Yes.
So we will send those questions to Robert and get you an answer as quickly as we can.
Yes. And our third question is, what should I do if I see lightning, but there is no shelter?
This is a great question, and I'm so glad that it came to us today. Sometimes you'll be caught out in a situation where you can't get to an interior building, or you can't get to your car. This happened last week, as a matter of fact, when we were in Memphis at the softball tournament. We had a wonderful weather day Saturday. Then Sunday we had some storms. As soon as we saw the first lightning strike, it was clear the field. And so here I have a few tips for you. Number one, you'll want to seek the lowest ground, not the highest ground, but the lowest ground. And you want to make yourself as low a target, as small a target as possible. If you can, place your head between your knees, cover your ears, you want to do that. If you're at a group of people like we were at the tournament and you need to find that lowest ground, you want to separate yourselves. You don't want to be in that group setting. You want to separate yourself from the friends that you're with and making yourself as small a target as possible. You want to avoid areas like water. You want to avoid trees. And you want to get away from the fencing because fencing is a conductor of lightning. And so these are some of the lightning safety tips that we have if you are in an area where there is no shelter. Now, your car is a good place too. If you can get to the car and you can't get to another building, but you always try to get to an interior if you can. But if you can't, these are some of the ways that you should be able to protect yourself.
Very, very helpful information for those of us who didn't know what the steps to finding shelter is.
Now, let's get into this because we may see some lightning tomorrow. Thankfully, it's happening Monday and not today. We've had some ideal weather this week.
Yeah, we have.
Now, tomorrow, as we're done with questions, and I actually have one more thing I want to say regarding questions, but I'll save that for just a moment. Tomorrow, there is a level 2 out of 5 severe weather risk for the hill country, far western sections of Williamson, Travis, and a small western part of Hayes counties. This is for the potential of strong storms coming in, especially during the afternoon and evening. The risk is marginal in the darker shade of green for the rest of the area, including Austin. The main weather threat coming tomorrow and again on Tuesday is going to be from gusty winds and again hail. Tuesday's risk is a level 2 out of 5 through the eastern half of the hill country, eastern San Saba, eastern Llano, the Willow City area of Gillespie, and then all of Lampasas, Vernon, and Blanco counties eastward at level 2. We saw a level 3 on Friday. Fortunately, the severe threat didn't seem to be as bad as it was first thought. But tomorrow, and let's go back just to show that again, tomorrow and then again on Tuesday, we go from a slight risk tomorrow in the hill country to a slight risk mainly from the eastern hill country along the interstate and in areas off to the east.
And around what time is this going to kick off?
Well, we kind of feel like tomorrow it'll be in the afternoon and evening. We have an 80% chance of showers and thunderstorms. I hate dealing in probability. I wish I didn't have to deal in the number, but a lot of people like it, so we appease them. Showers and thunderstorms and an 80% chance on Tuesday. Tuesdays would be during the morning into the afternoon and evening because we see the potential of the storm starting as early as about 6 to 8 o'clock. But this is just a forecast of what could happen. Again, weather is not a fixed, it's a variable. And so we may see adjustments to this, and Tommy will be updating that coming on at 5 o'clock today.
Yeah, and before I move on to talking about your blog post that was published today, did you have anything else to share?
Yeah. I saw a reported that we had yesterday from someone. There was a story apparently that we did, and there was an error. I don't know why the error happened, but sometimes they do, and we strive to be as accurate as possible. But it's just like the weather. Sometimes you get some information that turns out to be bogus. Please be kind. You know, we're trying to do our job here, and when you just say things that are mean, it means for me, it's like I don't want to answer your email if you're going to be that mean. That's just me talking as an old man.
I mean, and I don't think anyone would want to answer an email that is mean on their first thing they do when they get into the job, right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, we do have your article. It's a blog post. It was posted just a little while ago, and it can be found on our website, KXAN.com. And here we talk about what April looks like, right?
Yeah, we do. At the end of every month, we wait for the final numbers from the National Weather Service to come out, and we use the calendar.
It was normal, right?
I'm sorry?
It looked like it was normal.
It was warmer than normal.
Yeah.
We would rather have months during the year that are below normal and precipitation that's above normal. But again, as we've seen over I don't know how many months it's been now, where we have had above normal temperatures. We had 26 days in April that had above normal highs. And 26 out of 30, that meant that only 3 days were below normal and there was 1 day at normal. 22 of those 26 days started on, I believe, it ended the month. We just had that much. Now you go back up to this graphic here. there was a change made, and boy, this sure made several of us happy. May is the wettest month of the calendar year. We normally receive 5.04 inches of rain in May. The May 2024 total was 6.2, and we'd be thrilled if we could get that. The update happened very late in the month. We did a weather chat. Kristen and I did a weather chat about a week or it was last Wednesday. And at that time, the indication for May was that May would be drier than normal, but there was a major change in this forecast from the Climate Prediction Center that suggested that we may have more rain than we would normally get. Now, the darker the green, the higher the confidence. The darker green shade is over the Panhandle, the South Plains, and the Permian Basin, essentially around Amarillo to Lubbock, on over to Childress, and then down into the Midland, Odessa area, where they are as dry as we are here. And then you see the lighter shades of green as you go from the words wetter than normal down towards the Austin area. So there is confidence. It's not the highest confidence right now that we will have rainfall that should be above normal. And again, May is the wettest month of the year at 5.04.
High hopes for this May.
Oh, we do. We will love talking about rain as much as we possibly can. You know, as Jayla likes to say, you really do enjoy when we have rain in the area, don't you? And I said, nothing makes me happier than when I can show my maps that show the rain totals for the area, because like I said to her this morning, you know, Freddie, who worked for me yesterday, was geeking out about today being May the 4th.
Yes.
May the 4th be with you. And so my geek out is rain totals.
Rain totals.
Yeah.
On May the 4th.
Yeah, on any day.
On any day.
And tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. It's sad to say that that rain is in the forecast for tomorrow. We won't have a day tomorrow like we will be enjoying today. I'm looking at our Estonian weather shot and just loving that picturesque skyline that we're seeing. And so that's it.
Plenty of places to enjoy Cinco de Mayo indoors.
That's right.
Yeah.
With a cool drink.
Yes, with a cool margarita. Well, thanks for joining us here, Rich. We're excited to hear more about the questions and the answers we have for next Sunday.
Yes, report it, REPORTIT at KXAN.com. We answer your questions every Sunday. We were a little late getting to today because I was off yesterday. Didn't get a chance to write my blog until this morning, so that's why we're coming to you a little bit late today. But we're here, and now it's time for lunch.
Yes, it is time for lunch. And we'll be back again later this afternoon around 3 o'clock for our Tommy's Travel Forecast. Thanks for joining us.